Hello again and welcome to the Big Marketing Show. I'm your host Malcolm Auld and I'm really excited about today's episode. That's because it's about the hottest topic in marketing, artificial intelligence. We've even had to change up a little bit of how we deliver the show so we can do lots of demonstrations that you can learn from. And don't forget, those of you in the live audience, you can add your questions into the chat, and through the marvels of technology, I'll get to them later in the show. So let's kick off. As you know, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors around artificial intelligence, which I'll refer to as AI for the rest of the show, and how it's going to revolutionise marketing. It's going to take away your job, or it's going to make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. So today we'll explore how AI will really affect the marketing industry as our expert guests reveal the truth around the impact of AI on the marketing industry as a whole. We'll also get live demonstrations on how to use some different tools, well, actually how to use them correctly, but also what not to do with them. The episode is going to kick off a bit differently. So before we introduce our guests, we're going to do a short video of each of them to introduce their companies. So let's have a look at our first guest. And I'm pleased now to introduce the CEO of MoFilm, Michelle Vincent. Welcome to the Big Marketing Show, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's going to be exciting. Really appreciate you joining us. And now our next guest, who comes from Lytro. Let's have a little introduction video from them. So I'm pleased to introduce the co-founder and CEO of Lytro, Brett Wilms. Welcome, Brett.
Hey, thank you for having me, Malcolm.
It's great to have you both here, but I just caution the audience that you've got to listen in American when they speak, and you've got to listen in Australian when I speak. So attune your ears accordingly. Coincidentally, I believe both of you worked at Google at the same time in the same department, but have never met. Is that correct, Brett?
Yeah, you got it. We were overlapping for most of our careers at Google. I was running marketing teams under Lorraine Toohill and Lisa Gavelber, and Michelle. You were doing similar things on the media side.
Exactly. I was also in a part of the business org, but on the media sales side. So basically any product that brands could invest in on Google, whether it was search or YouTube, I was running some of the teams that help facilitate that.
Well, obviously the early adopters, there they are at Google, and now here they are in the world of AI. Now, Michelle, in our discussions, you actually mentioned that MoFilm conducted some research with your global creator community. What did they tell you, and how did this shape your approach as an organisation to AI?
Yes. Well, that takes me back to early 2023 when a little thing called generative AI popped up on our radar, but we were hearing a lot about how it was impacting the creative space in particular. So we decided to pull our global network of creators. We have about 10,000 strong around the world, asked them whether they were using it, their sentiments, and we were pretty surprised to see that more than half were somewhat, if not actually pretty terrified that it was going to take over their jobs. And that began our journey and trying to determine how to democratize an understanding of it for not only for them, but for our company and the partners that we work with as well.
That's fascinating. The fact that you say it takes me back to January 23 as if that was a long time ago, it does show you the speed of which how this is changing so quickly, as if that was ages ago. Brett, have you found similar in your network?
Exactly the same thing. We started our company by creating a community of over 750 creatives across all disciplines who we believe are the world's finest. They were terrified, but also we were terrified. And I remember the day when we first looked at Midjourney. It was about a year and a half ago, and we were like, oh my God, the future of creativity is going to involve this AI, and we need to start working with it in order to make sure that we can deliver on our mission, which is to see creatives flourishing. And we thought we could respond in a few different ways. One, we could fight it. We could embrace it, but it had a very sketchy start. We also thought we could starve it. And there's incredible people across the world that are having those battles. And I feel they're incredibly noble, and we support them. Our role, we decided, was, hey, what if we could create our own AI platform? So we hired an AI CTO and an AI engineering team, and we started to build our own platform. And that was a platform that we envisioned could create on-brand illustrations, photography, and copywriting, but all at the same time compensating creatives for their work at the generation level.
And that's interesting. We'll talk a bit more about that, how you're compensating creatives, because I think that's very important. I mean, I think the first time I tried Midjourney, my first output was a green version of my French bulldog with cicada wings. I don't know what I was on that day, but I've still got the image somewhere. But, so today we're going to look at how you're both using AI in your organisations. Michelle, can you tell us how MoFilm has integrated it into your processes?
We have been experimenting with, playing with all aspects of the end-to-end process when it comes to content creation and production. When you look at the pre-production process, there are plenty of opportunities just to ideate with a lot of the tools out there from a creative standpoint. There's also even just some simple things that you can move faster with, like storyboarding or scripting. And that early on in the process has been really helpful. When it comes to the execution of production, we have identified ways that producers can leverage it to start thinking about set design, or really thinking about the audiences that they're trying to reach, and concepting with strategy right before they start executing on set. And then after the post-production process as well, there are plenty of tools out there that we'll look at a little bit later that can help everyone from editing to really polishing, and all of the elements in post-production that you can really think of has been transformed by this technology.
Okay, and the good thing about that is that you've got a couple of demonstrations for us, as has Brett today, so we're going to be cutting to those and having a look at them. So the first one is really cool, it's especially for those of us who've spent endless hours in post-production. So let's have a look at it now.
This shot specifically is in this demo because I got this note from a client. They were like, hey, we really love this shot, but we cannot show the Adidas logo. What can you do, right? And so for me as an editor, do I replace the shot, which is going against the client notes? Don't really want to do that. Do I blur it? And it's like super obvious that I'm covering something up. That's ugly. I don't want to do that either. Do I painstakingly frame by frame mask in something like After Effects and then use content aware fill and just like hope that it works? No, I'm going to use in painting from Runway. Whoa, we have a rogue brushstroke here. But basically what this is going to allow me to do is just quickly paint over this Adidas logo. And I'm going to show you guys the mask results first, and to show you that it's going to track that Adidas logo through my scene with just one keyframe. And so now if I switch this over to result mode and go to the front, it will fill that hole with content and context aware fill and bring back in some of that t-shirt material and just erase that logo like it was never there. And so this is just saving a ton of time. There's no manual work involved other than just painting out the logo in the first place. And like, that's something that people are used to doing anyway, right? The paintbrush tool, it's been in every creative tool since the dawn of time. And so this is not a new mechanic to do something. It's just automating the super tedious parts of that process along the way.
That's going to save a lot of time, Michelle, compared to the old days of cutting and pasting in film, and even these days with digital editing.
Yes, I mean, our minds were blown. That's a clip from Mo Labs. It was a quick and easy way for us to start to just talk about some of the technology that was out there with our creator community as we were starting to address these fears, and just help to have a bigger conversation around, here are some of the opportunities, things that used to take hours, if not days or weeks, can suddenly be done in minutes. And quite frankly, I think it's just a supercharged version of other creative evolutions that we've seen using eraser tools in platforms like Adobe Illustrator. So, we're just in a different day and age where the technology has elevated, we're moving faster. And that was just a really, really fun discussion with some tech that blew our mind. To see it in motion is game changing.
Can you do the reverse? Could you drop a logo or an image on that then match the movement of the talent?
Well, that wasn't something that we discovered in the episode, but I would absolutely think so. The ability for the technology and that particular platform is Runway and we've seen the evolution of some of the products like Sora, for example, to do incredible things with video. Basically anything, excuse me, can be integrated into video and move so smoothly with motion that you wouldn't be able to tell AI from reality in some of these cases, especially in B-roll or little pieces of a film.
Yeah, okay, and you've actually got another demo for us in that that's just as mind-blowing, because it's a really useful tool for marketers out there who might not want to go through the whole editorial process when trying to make small changes to video content. So let's have a look at that one now.
So the power of Descript is editing like a doc.
I'm Brian Morris from Hattie B's Hot Chicken right here in Nashville, Tennessee. And today we're joined by superfan Madison.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So today we're going to have some.
By removing sections of the script, you can take out pieces of the video that you don't want or move things around, copy and paste. So a great example of that. If we made an editorial decision to take out superfan, we can just delete that from the script and it will delete the underlying audio and video.
And today we're joined by Madison.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So today we're going to have some fun.
And you can make a lot of editorial decisions that way. Bring in video for B-roll, create zooms, punch-ins. But a lot of this kind of edit and assembly that teams like yourselves will be doing is putting your kind of rough cut together into script and exporting it out to Final Cut, Premiere, wherever you're going.
We might have to use this for the big marketing show and edit out the rough heads of me occasionally. So that's incredible, Michelle.
Yeah, I've been on quite a few podcasts that are already using this technology. The ability to be able to have the visual actually match an audio omission at the click of a button is so exciting. But what we also loved was the versatility in this tool when we were talking to Descript for this particular session. And that was the ability to remove ums and ahs. So let's say, we all do that in our sort of day-to-day talk, those filler words. Not only was the technology able to remove them, but if you decided that's almost too polished, it doesn't feel authentic, you could actually reintegrate it back in 10%, 20% at whatever level felt comfortable and still have the visual in that video seamlessly match. Again, saving days, if not weeks of work for any platform that is video based.
Yeah, fascinating. A tool that adds in ums and ahs to take away the polish. Brett, I assume, and obviously from Lightro's introductory video, you're doing similar things to MoFilm.
We are. I think the most important thing that we're doing is that we're able to create these micro models that interact with the industry's base models to create exactly the on-brand look and feel or the on-brand tone of voice for a particular piece of copywriting. And it's just so powerful to be able to make something that's actually commercially viable with your brand versus, we believe that assets are essentially valueless until they cross that threshold that says, hey, we're ready to use this and let our audience see it. And it needs to have an incredibly high bar in order to get there. And all the way in what we're creating, the creatives are getting compensated up to 50% at the revenue generation level.
So they've reacted positively to this, Brett?
They have. They don't start there, though. Everyone's terrified of this narrative that AI tools are going to replace creatives. What we have spent a ton of our time doing is determining what is responsible AI. And for us, that's consent from the creatives. It's giving them credit for the outputs, and of course, compensation, and finally, collaboration. Even with the most advanced tools and base models in the industry, orchestrating them all together, you're still getting some things that aren't going to be exactly right for your brand. And it's really important that we keep creatives in the loop because they're the professionals that are able to move hearts and minds.
Yeah, that's your 4 C's.
So collaboration.
So consent, credit, compensation, collaboration. It's a really nice way of summarising it. So you've brought a couple of examples to show us. The first one's how AI-generated avatars are being used instead of human models, and this example's in the jewelry industry. You want to take us through this?
Yeah, so this is an advanced workflow, and what you're seeing inside of this screen is the jewelry is an exact replica built by a model of a particular SKU from an e-commerce site. The model is generated, the model being the woman, is generated, and the video has been added after we place the earring on her ear. And all of this can be, I would say, about 97% automated. There's still 1 or 2 steps needed by a human, but to be able to place an exact product, put it into a lifestyle image or photograph, and then animate it is, I think, one of the most exciting use cases for AI.
And you were saying that the quality is so high, you could actually look at this on a cinema screen or a television, not just a small, a handheld device, and the quality's still there.
Yeah, you bet. You can play this wherever you like.
Yeah. And Michelle, you're doing similar things. You mentioned you had an interesting thing about hair color and things you wanted to expand on.
Yes. So, well, what's interesting is I've worked with a large range of brands over the years. It tends to be the larger, massive Fortune 500 companies that seem to be a little bit more gun shy to lean into some of the technology and the avatars. But I've been in plenty of forums with mid-sized businesses, more progressive businesses that are leaning into it and really seeing that value in return. But some of the conversations that we've been having at the large company scale are some concerns around the authenticity that they're projecting. And so you can still utilize AI technology to show images, but in the example of hair color that we were talking about before, we talked to a CMO that had a large consumer base with people of color, and the texture of the hair in a close-up of an AI generated image, you can tell pretty quickly if you're a member of the community whether or not that image is authentic or not. And they also discussed internally the importance of, if we're showing a hair color before and after on an AI generated image in our commercial advertising, then it better look really, really
Real.
accurate when it's on somebody outside, like in real life. And so the ability to have a human in the loop to ensure that accuracy was there was really critical to the process, and very, very important with brands that have to stand behind their reputation at scale.
Yeah, that's really good insight. And authenticity is key to this being successful over time. Interestingly, way back, as you mentioned, in February 23, I wrote a blog predicting that prompting would be the word of the year. And Brett, everyone, as you know, everyone thinks they're a prompter. I mean, they're fancy job titles like prompt engineer. How important is prompting for AI models? You've got a couple of demos here, so why don't you run us through these to show us how to create a blog and then also how to create imagery. We'll have a look at the blog one first.
So what you're seeing here is the ability to choose a style that you've generated as your brand on the left-hand side, and that's a fine-tuned model. So we crunch that in the cloud. It takes about 40 minutes to create from your own content. And then on the right-hand side, you're talking to the machine just like you would in ChatGPT or Anthropic. But what's happening that's different here is we're using both the fine-tuned model and the principles to execute your blog post across multiple base models. So all of the ones you know, ChatGPT, Mistral, Llama, Sonnet 3.5 from Anthropic. And it's evaluating the outputs and giving you the best output that the industry has to offer with all of those things being orchestrated. And I would say that writing is 5 parts thinking and 1 part actually writing. So it's about you and your imagination, your articulation of that imagination, and then of course your ability to revise. So sometimes we think about this when we talk to writers, they start thinking that this is going to be really scary, but when they're finished, they realize that they just got a promotion. They're not only writing, but they're also editing. So they become the chief editor.
And that's fascinating that the machines are assessing the machines to produce the right content. Although as a writer, it's 1 part writing and 4 parts editing. In my case, it's what you take away that gives it the form. So let's have a look at generating images. You've got another example there to talk about.
And so what you're seeing here is you're able to choose any dimension that you would need for your commercial asset. You've got the style on the upper left-hand side, and you're prompting again, and it's all about your imagination, your articulation of that imagination, and your revision. And you can create essentially anything you want and flip to different styles on demand. And what I think is really important, again, these are going to be, if we get it right in about the 95% viable, and you're able to expand these images and ask for anything that you need to be tweaked to polish with a pro, and that will go to a human and be flipped back to you within 24 hours.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's interesting. And if what they generate comes from one of your creators, the base model, that's where that commission comes in. Is that correct, in simple terms?
The commission comes in at every level. So actually 50% of the generation revenue on the machine side is actually shared with the creatives, and the revenue from any manual work from the creatives.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fascinating. It's nice to see the creative IP being protected. So there is no doubt, though, that it's going to bring big changes to workflows for all of us, and you can see that just from what we've looked at already, which does lead to concern about the impact on jobs. And the scaremongers are saying that AI will replace copywriters and designers. So a question for both of you, what creative roles will it affect? Firstly, in a positive way by enhancing skills. Michelle, your thoughts?
Oh, plenty of roles will be impacted positively. I think it's a matter of these roles, whether you're talking about copywriters, as you mentioned, and being able to just move faster at speed, ideate more, really start to build out other options and iterations at a size and scale and speed that's never been seen before. I spoke to a chief commercial officer once that used to say, it will make your average, C- creative, a good solid B+, A- really, really quickly. But what takes creative from good to great is always going to require that additional element of storytelling, that human experience. What is the story that we're trying to tell? What are the experiences that we're having in our various communities that make the object, the asset that we're looking at, evoke emotion, surprise, delight, fear, whatever it might be, whatever we're trying to articulate with the creative that comes out on the other side of it, in my opinion, will continue to require the human in the loop, and the tools just make it easier across the board.
Yes, you mentioned in our earlier discussion that it's the brush, not the artist. You mentioned it was the term you used.
Yes, AI will absolutely be the paintbrush, but not the artist. That molding and shaping that elevates that creative from good to great is where our creatives come in, and that's why we posted all of those MoLabs episodes that we looked at earlier for free on YouTube, so they can start to get used to it and learn how to leverage it for their own benefit.
And build confidence as well as awareness. And Brett, where do you see positives in the creative area in terms of jobs and roles?
I see both. I think that the first is it's going to become, and it already is, becoming incredibly easy to create something beautiful. But to create something meaningful is still extremely difficult. And that's why we continue and will always need incredible creatives to drive that. Sometimes I like to think about this as a dichotomy, starting at strategy and all the way through to execution. And what you're going to see is the AI is going to start to get really great at execution at this end. And it's going to start going this way. And it's important for creatives to start thinking about playing their biggest game and moving beyond execution to the strategy, the art direction, because that is the collaboration that is going to start happening with AI. Revision will always be important to get that meaningful piece. And I think the last thing is just make sure, if you're a creative, that you're promoting yourself. Promote yourself. If you're a writer, think about yourself as a chief editor. If you're an illustrator, start to think of yourself as an art director, because that's where all the value is going to be generated.
Right, but then I think that's really good insight in promoting yourself and showing what you're doing, because I've already seen job descriptions now requiring, just as you needed Microsoft Excel and Word, now you need some generative AI skills. So it will become a skill required in marketing. But Brett, on the flip side, do you think there are specific jobs that might disappear as a result?
Yeah, one thing I'll say first before I answer that properly is that we're going to need to be able to well, let me answer your question directly first. What jobs may disappear? I'm not sure that any are going to disappear, because what we'll really see is all of these jobs just adapting.
Change, yeah, and adapt.
And
yeah.
so people are going to be doing different things. But again, anyone who's close to the execution side of it needs to continue to skill up. And I think the scariest thing for me, this was the thought that I lost, that it's going to be, the scariest thing for me is that we need to make sure that people have a place to be mentored, because as the execution, the incredible skill that you train for 30 years to be able to write at that level, once the machines start doing that, where are you going to learn that skill from?
Yeah, right.
And who's going to invest in creating that skill?
Yeah, so Michelle, rather than on dying roles, it's you'll die if you don't adapt. Would that be right?
Yes, it's that age-old saying, AI is not going to take over your job, but somebody else that knows how to use it well definitely can and will. You know, my own mother was a stay-at-home mom and missed kind of the whole era when everybody started adopting computer technology, and that was really challenging for her to come back into the workforce. But just like any technology and any innovation that we see in the workplace, once we start to learn how to use the tools, it may change how we operate in the jobs, and to Brett's point, the jobs may evolve, how we function in those roles may evolve, and what we're doing may change. But you know, dictation tools inside of you know, document technology didn't mean that the assistant's job went away. He or she didn't stop, just moved from you know, typing up their boss's letters to other more strategic, more valuable work.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. I showed Clippy to one of my classes the other day from Microsoft, you know, the old paperclip and early AI, and none of them had ever seen it. I mean, that's how fast it's moved on. They didn't know what I was talking about when I showed it. So it is, look, it's pretty clear that all of us in marketing, you know, we're going to be affected by technologies like this. Where do you see the dangers? Is there anywhere that you see that it's going to be bad for us? I haven't asked either. Michelle?
I think it's going to be bad.
Brett. Yeah, go on, Brett.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be bad for us as creatives and marketers if we don't learn how to wield the tools. You know, we talk a lot about integrating these tools into our workflows, but if we stand aside while all of the tools are evolving around us, we will find a place where we can't connect with the best practices in the industry. I think for me, that's where I'm spending my energy right now. How can I help people take the first step towards wielding these tools, even when they're not sure about whether they should or not? Even I need to exist in a quantum state. I need to both love AI and hate AI at the same time in order to help people get there.
Right. Okay.
Michelle.
I think, Michelle, your thoughts on that?
Yes, I'll just build on that, and that it is important to well, two things stand out to me. One, for businesses, thinking about the ethical blueprint in terms of your company values, how you're utilizing the tools, how you are making sure that you are utilizing technology that has the appropriate usage rights, and in terms of where the information is being ingested from, and that you would feel really good about where those outputs are generated from. So that's one piece. But the other piece as well is we also have to really understand the platforms that we're using. When we use any of these tools, making sure that we are having a dialogue with the platforms in the enterprise world and understanding, how is my data being ingested? Is it training my competitor on the data? Having these conversations, and thankfully, many of the platforms that we've spoken to are very willing and able to make sure that these enterprise agreements are solid. But you just have to make sure that you're doing the research before you dive in and start to play around with it for
it's good
business
advice,
purposes.
particularly when you're playing with big brands. So look, we're going to get into a bit of the meat of this episode, if you like, on how it will impact all of us. And to be honest, when I first saw everything you provided, both of you, it was, pretty surprising. It shook me up a little bit, but the more I looked into it, the more I can see there's a lot of positive potential. And to illustrate this, and we ask the audience's indulgence just for a few minutes as we take you through an AI workflow process. So take note of how you might apply it to create your own marketing campaigns end to end. And this is from MoFilm's sister company, Pencil. So let's have a look at this now. Think about how you can apply it to your own business.
The platform is split into 3 big categories: generating creatives, images, and text. And then you can also kick things off with a template specific to Facebook ads or Instagram and more. Here you can drag and drop your brand guidelines, audience personas, or any brand studies that you got. Next up is the asset library. This is where you can upload things like product pack shots, your previous hero imagery, and campaign images. The AI can use these so it's not always starting from scratch. So we're going to begin with the text generation tool. This is where you can interact with AI to generate text content tailored to your needs. So for this demo, we asked how to promote ice cream during the winter. And as you can see here, it eventually suggested this quirky idea of high fashion hibernation. Well, we loved it, so we decided to go ahead and run with it. Chat interface is great because it lets you have that back and forth with the machine like you're brainstorming with a colleague. If you're stuck, it's really perfect for combating that blank page syndrome. This is our image generation tool. Another thing that is a key differentiator for Pencil is its predictive engine. So looking here, you can see those dots in the upper left-hand corner. AI looks at the data from your media accounts over the past 90 days, checks to see what's worked versus what hasn't, and then it gives each piece of content a sort of traffic light score. If you get a green light, that means AI predicted this content will perform in the top 25%. Orange means bottom 25% versus the baseline, and then blue means that the AI couldn't find anything similar in your account to compare it to, so it's labeled as new and worth trying. A lot of brands actually love that feature with the blue flag because it suggests you might be onto something fresh that could really stand out. We're going to dig into the feed variations tool here. This is where things get really interesting because it combines creative automation with a bit of an AI twist. First, you're going to want to pick your master creative. You can see here where we've selected it from the template library. And this opens up what we call the creative automation spreadsheet, where we'll map everything out. Let's say you want to create a headline with a dramatic feel. And then we're going to go ahead and click on generate copy just above here. You'll see the prompt that's been used to generate this headline. It says, write a 5-word headline that summarizes A2 if the genre of TV being watched was B2. Use puns. I'm sure a copywriter could get much more inventive, but it is a great way to get that past that blank page syndrome. Okay, this area is full of little quick wins for creatives. You automatically get everything in every aspect ratio. You can edit all of the formats. You can make manual changes. AI only gets you about 80% of the way there. The rest is really up to human talent to prompt it. Let's take a look at one of the creatives. Let's say we decide we love this last one. We want to take a closer look in more detail. So we would click into export and actually include some motion.
believe if we hit preview here, that will enable us to see what this looks like in real time. And there we have it.
That's amazing stuff, Michelle. I mean, the speed with which you can create something like that. So how are your clients reacting to these new tools, or more specifically, what are they creating and how?
We love talking about this platform. I mean, we're very platform agnostic, but this one has had many marketers knocking down the doors to see this demo. It takes a little bit longer in real life to show end to end how to create an ice cream asset. Yeah, that was a short version. But still, I mean, just the sheer speed and ability to do so. We can actually run that demo live in roughly about 10 minutes. It's something that is helpful in terms of being able to allow ideas that marketers might not have thought about before, and start leveraging again the speed and scale of this technology to, build. As you saw earlier, you could have hundreds of lines of copy that you can play around with, and hundreds upon hundreds of images that are quickly sort of filtered for you, not only into what is going to predictively work well, but to be able to find fresh ideas that may, be something that you never would have thought of before, but are worth experimenting with to try to push your brand and push the narrative in new and different ways. So we're seeing all sorts of industries, a lot of CPG, some tech companies have been into it. It's been really exciting to see come to fruition.
Yeah, and I guess you could test a lot of concepts early, decide a lot faster, more faster before you get to the final execution. So it allows you to do probably a lot more research in faster and cheaper time than you would have historically, I imagine.
Exactly. And then the fact that you can take your brand guidelines, specific audience personas, and start to shape the content around that really allows you to get super prescriptive about what that imagery might look like, and determine pretty quickly what will resonate. And if it works, then let's scale it and maximize the potential out of that particular series of images.
Yeah, very exciting. I assume, Brett, your clients having similar reaction because you're doing similar?
Yeah, similar reaction, 100%. I think that I'll share two things. I think the two biggest use cases that we're seeing, advertising is all about performance, right? We want to make money at the end of it. The first one is, can you create a number of variations of advertisements every month and increase your overall performance without increasing your ad budget? At the end of the day, creative is the most powerful tool for increasing performance. We just don't create enough of it because it's expensive. Now suddenly we can create amazing creative and have 30, 50, 100 different creative variations each month. So that's one. And all at an amazingly high bar, right? So long as you keep the humans in the loop. The second is for search engine optimization. A well-funded startup will have a best practice of publishing one blog post a week. With AI and some human editing, we're seeing companies now work with us that are going from that once a week to 3 a day. Like, how many blogs will Google consume and put into the search engine? That's how many you should create every day, because now you can do it. And so you're moving from one a week to, I don't know, you could get up to 50 a month.
Yeah, as long as they're relevant, then yeah. If it's not just contributing to the infobesity epidemic that we're struggling with, it's, you've got to have. That's to your point. You've got to have good editing and good humans on the top to make sure it's worthwhile. Michelle, the platform itself, is that the sort of thing you white label for agencies, or is it just proprietary for you to use on your clients?
So agencies and brands alike can leverage a technology. They're sort of different packages that can be adopted that are right on the Pencil website, trypencil.com, or there's also a lot of enterprise options directly for brands and different levels of whether one wants to do a DIY service or not. But we're pretty transparent with what Pencil is, and who knows what could be on the roadmap, but for right now, I'm not seeing it as a white labeled product at the moment.
Well, when we're looking back in 12 months at this far distant past, who knows where we'll be. 12 months is a long time in AI. And the legal space is also a minefield. Brett, how are you addressing legalities?
Oh, great question. So I'm not a lawyer, but let me share some thoughts about about how legal works in AI. So the first one is, if a machine generates something, you cannot copyright it. It's black and white. However, if you have a human add sufficient creative contribution to the piece, you can copyright it. But what is sufficient creative contribution? It's not like 1% or 2% or 5%. It's a case by case basis when it's taken into consideration, but it's about like a third plus. So if you really want to own the copyright, you need humans to make sure that they're contributing. But I would also say that there are some pieces that are so, their lifespan can be so short, organic social posts and otherwise, that you may not need the copyright, but you want to be able to create that incredible brand piece at the efficiency level that AI allows you to have it. In terms of Lytro, with some caveats, because we typically don't generate raw, we only generate inside of styles that are created on the platform that brands create themselves or creatives. So we offer indemnification to our customers.
Right, so you are protected. Michelle, you've got a thing called the green list of safe AI tools. Do you want to just expand a little bit on that? What it means to be on this list?
Yes. So I touched on it a little bit earlier around the importance of understanding when you are leveraging any Gen AI tool, it is ingesting data to learn and iterate. And when you're working at the corporate level on a brand level, understanding what the tool is doing with that information and whether or not it's feeding other learning models was something that, at least inside of our holdco, the brand tech group, MoFilm was one of their first acquisitions. Our legal team has spent a lot of time platform by platform, having these conversations about what the enterprise agreement will look like in terms of what we're comfortable with in order to determine who can see the data, whether or not the learning models can train our own data, can train other data. Again, it's very important on a company by company basis to determine what that looks like and what you're comfortable with. So what we've done, as every platform has this conversation with our legal team, then for the broader company, we have other sister companies in addition to Pencil that can look at a list of brands that are on this green list, which means this is okay to use. We have an enterprise agreement in place. We're really comfortable with the ability to use it for your internal and commercial work. So go for it. And that just makes it easy for everyone. There's also a form that anybody throughout the entire holdco, any company member within the group can say, we really love this tool. We want to use it in our organization. They feed it through, and then it will go through the same process, hopefully for some swift vetting and the ability to use it again at scale.
Right. So you decide which AI models go on. Models don't come to you and nominate to say, can I go on your green list?
Right. Well, we in the Pencil demonstration, for example, there were some of the foundational models that you can see, like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion is in there, Getty Images, which have all those usage rights cleared. Every company is going to have a different level of comfort. We were talking with one CPG brand previously where they only feel comfortable with the Getty Images for now and maybe Adobe Firefly. And so the ability to have it really fleshed out clearly around what is safe for work is going to be critical, again, to address the conversation that we had earlier, where are there any concerns that we may have down the road?
Right. Okay. It's fascinating. And as you both said, the legal side is a minefield, and I'm sure there's a lot of, let's call amateurs or small businesses that don't understand that. So they could get caught down the track, but it's a wait and see at the moment. But how do you think marketing departments are going to be affected? We're talking about bigger brands now. Do you see the growth of insourcing, where creative teams are being brought in-house because they've got these production skills as part of the marketing team, Brett?
I think you're going to continue to see it all over the place. Like now with tools like Lytro and MoFilms and Pencil, you can adopt these tools as an agency. Like on the Lytro side, you can do that as a white label. Now suddenly you're going to have AI-empowered agencies. On the in-house team now, you're going to have, again, these incredible tools that your in-house team can work with to be more efficient. You do need to decide where are you going to invest for creativity, because at the end of the day, you still need the master storytellers. So I think there's going to be multiple combinations. I think that we are seeing a trend in the industry to start looking for agency replacements, especially in Silicon Valley, where we see a lot of tech layoffs. Like the most incredible creatives around the world are now either moonlancing or freelancing, and you can assemble those folks into teams to work as extensions of in-house teams. And so I think the whole industry is changing, and I feel like it's going to be moving more towards in-housing and finding people and companies that enhance your in-house teams. Michelle.
It's interesting, and you're both from Google. A mate of mine was head of Google Zoo in a certain part of the world, and he said, having come from running multinational agencies as a creative director, the creatives at Google aren't creative people, they're technical people. It's an entirely different mindset to what you call creative people. Michelle, are you seeing this movement to in-housing or the roles of agencies changing who are supplying marketers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really bullish on, again, it's not that the jobs will shift. I think there's been a massive step change in housing. I think that the introduction of generative AI into the creative process on the agency side of things, again, on the marketing and agency side of things, will continue to fuel that ability. It is expensive and complex for brands to start that in-house process. And in order to start to build out those capabilities in a way that makes it easier and more accessible and reduces the need for outsourcing, this is the type of technology that I believe will actually absolutely enable them to do so. Will post-production companies still exist? Of course, there are going to be end-to-end Gen AI enabled companies that just do it better than anyone else can. But there's still always a ton of work. There's a reason why many companies find themselves having multiple agencies, and this technology will enable to do more of that in-house. Just maybe not the Super Bowl commercials. maybe that's what what still goes to the traditional agency, while maybe some of the UGC work and social media stuff can start to lean more into Gen AI in-house, at least.
And what hasn't changed is that the best creatives want to work where they can work across a range of brands. So that's why they don't like to go in-house, because they're stuck with the one brand group. So you tend to find that the better creatives don't move in-house. So, the smart ones will learn how to use this and offer services, and, the more we change, the more we stay the same. So the other issue, though, that is a bit of an elephant in the room is the carbon footprint of AI. It's a big issue, but it's not discussed much because the energy level is huge. And if you're claiming sustainability credentials, but using AI to create copy and images, say for regular bulk emails, you're going to have to include it in your carbon calculations, aren't you, Brett?
I'm not an expert on this, but here's what I think about it. The amount of energy required to do AI at the scale that it's already approaching is immense, and it is only going to get larger. I believe with Sam Altman that we're going to need to find new ways to produce energy. Like in 2 to 3 years from now, this is going to be a massive deal. I don't know the answer other than we're going to need to invent new ways to create energy around the world for this to be sustainable. Michelle?
No, I might ask you after the show what to invest in then, maybe in the next couple of years in energy brands. Michelle, are you seeing this? Is this an issue that's being addressed by clients?
Well, when you look at the entire marketing end-to-end process, production, where we sit is one of the biggest offenders of having a massive carbon footprint impact, because in the traditional production world, a brand might be flying crews all around the world in order to, execute their productions in various local markets. And we had already started seeing a shift there. And when you take technology, that need starts to become reduced again. That carbon footprint from flying many folks around the world starts to go away. So I think there's a balance. Yes, there's a carbon footprint offset or impact that happens with the technology, but I think we're seeing that with a lot of technology. Look at electric vehicles, for example. We have to look at the big picture, and for those brands that do have corporate or social responsibility, ways of measuring and understanding the impact that they're making, I just think this is another area to keep an eye on and find other ways throughout your entire supply chain cycle and production cycle to offset that and do better for the earth. I think it's possible, but something important to be aware of.
Well, just as we do here on the Big Marketing Show, I hope you're not disappointed I didn't fly you down to Sydney and we just beamed you in from America. So this is actually one of the reasons this platform was invented, was to help big events bring people from around the world and cut down on carbon footprint, but we'll talk about that separately. It's interesting, I teach copywriting, as I said, as a subject at university, and this semester we've been experimenting with ChatGPT and other AI models to analyse outputs. And the students were given an identical prompt to put into ChatGPT last week. But based on their historical uses of the model, they all got different answers. Brett, do you think marketers are aware of how machine learning really works and how it affects the output?
I don't think they are yet. And I don't think creatives are either, because I read so much about creatives saying, oh, AI can only do this or AI can only do that. But if you actually start wielding these tools, they can do a lot more than you think. I'll share some advice on creating excellent prompts. The first is always ask the system, you need to give it a role. So you need a role, then you need context, and then you need task. And if you set up your first prompt that way, the rest of the things will go really well. So for example, your role is a professional copywriter for company X who does X, Y, and Z. Your task is to write blog posts for this audience at this reading level. If you set the AI up like that, then everything gets better. Then once you start kind of shaping and turning the prompts as you go along, they also get better because, again, you're infusing your experience and your skill set into the system. Writing with AI, just like your usual writing, it's all about finesse, and you need to add that finesse to the prompts as well.
Right, okay, yeah. I've lost audio.
Can you hear us?
Okay. Through the marvels of technology, you'll see I now have my glasses on and an iPad in front of me. Thanks, Brett, because we've got some questions here from the audience, which I'd actually like to share. It's a tradition here when we get them in. So one was, what tools are best for freelance copywriters and art directors to use that don't cost a fortune? So if I'm out there and I'm trying to get started on this, where could you direct somebody so they don't waste time on the wrong things? Maybe what are the right things to start? Michelle, have you got thoughts on that?
I recommend, even from a most basic starting point, ChatGPT is free and there is so much that you can do with it. I mean, I haven't really thought that question through very much, but that's where I started, and I've seen entire demonstrations inside our company and inside our larger group with building out amazing creative marketing strategies, audience persona, profile building, simply by using that technology. And again, there's of course paid versions and other interesting things that you can do with it. You can create imagery, which I used ChatGPT to experiment with some images for something fun with my son's Boy Scout troop. So there's so much that you can do there, and other platforms that are completely free that to me is low-hanging fruit for anybody to just start playing around with and learning from. But Brett may have some more visibility from a more creative experience on his side.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Well, first, send me a DM on LinkedIn. We would love to have you play with our new tool that's about to launch. Any creative out there, I'd be happy to let you play. We'll give you an account, and you have an opportunity to also make money, of course, at the generation level. In terms of mainstream tools, in our experience, Anthropic, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is the best writer. You can start playing with it for free. And, for, I don't know what it is, like $20 a month or something, you can start generating on Anthropic. It's incredible at writing, and that's where they're spending their billions of dollars. It's mostly on the writing side and the coding side.
I've just started marking assignments this week, and I think one or two of mine have started using that, by the way. Another one here is that obviously we're still in our infancy. Any feelings on when this will be a mature industry? It's moving so quickly. Any thoughts, looking out to the future? It doesn't matter, no one will remember in a couple of years, but what sort of predictions would you have, Brett?
Oof. The companies are leapfrogging each other I feel like every week and new technologies are being developed every week. And so I think this whole industry resets itself every week on what's possible. And so like maturity is probably, 10 years out. And I think that you just need to spend your energy on staying on top of what's possible if you're a creative. Because what you could do last week is very different this week. There's new base models like Flux that are, beating the
I
pants off of Stable
played with that
Diffusion.
this week. Yes.
Google just, yeah, and so just keep updated.
Okay, I've got one other here. I'll throw this to you, Michelle. I'll show this one to you, Michelle. My old boss, this comes from Mark, who I know. Nice to see you there, mate. My old boss, Ogilvy, famously said, if each of us hires people smaller than we are, we become a company of dwarfs. If we're built, but if he hires people better than us, we become a company of giants. If we're building on creative that already exists, how do we build concepts that enable us to become Ogilvyian giants, as he says, rather than derivatives?
How do we become that? I mean, again, I think it all comes down to number one, as the technology is evolving, what the landscape is going to look like in the future is something that's impossible for any of us to predict. The large companies of today, aren't the same large companies that we thought were the behemoths just 20 years ago. So I think in order to anticipate how to get to that level, to Brett's point, it's really important to stay on top of the technology and the evolving landscape because you never know what is going to be the next big thing that is going to unlock the next level of creativity. I think that table stakes, that layer or that baseline of what table stakes is considered to be has been raised completely, and it's a whole new starting point for those next players to really get ahead of the curve and lock in that next opportunity for growth for the future. So I know that's a little bit of a non-answer, but it's I think it's too hard to tell, and we're already seeing in the large behemoths in that agency landscape, it is a tough situation in that game right now. The margins are thin. We've seen RFPs inside of MoFilm that have been very forthcoming about the consolidation that some brands want to engage in, and that doesn't always mean going to one of the big holdcos. So to be determined. Another place where I wish I had a crystal ball.
Yes, I think we all would, and I think that is one of the issues. As some, even like myself, if you don't know who to go to for advice, you're wasting a lot of time just trying to keep up, to stand still. You're doing a road runner, you're learning on one, then another one comes out and it's better. To your point, Brett, there's a new one. I mean, you've sort of got to grab a couple and become really good at them, and then allocate time each week to just investigate the new stuff coming in. Brett, have you got any final thoughts? I mean, because I suspect we could talk for hours.
And just my final thought on the whole thing is every creative, just dip your toes in. Don't worry about which tools you should be trying. Just dip your toes into them all. Try Runway for video, try Luma, try ChatGPT, try Anthropic. Just get used to all of the tools out there so you can come up with new and ingenuitive ways to bring them all together with your creative prowess.
Okay, mate. And Michelle, final thoughts?
Yes, the technology is moving so fast. To the earlier point, if you look at every 6-month stage of a platform like Midjourney, from eyeballs and fingers that didn't look like anything normal to images that are now difficult to distinguish between, the technology is moving so fast. It is the human element, learning how to harness it, really playing with the strategy and the creative vision. That's going to be the most important piece, and coming up with great stories to continue to bring the creative opportunities to life will be the future. So I hope more folks get their hands on it and more brands get comfortable with playing in it and doing some more exciting new things.
Yeah, well, it's obviously we all need to become AI fit, and I think our audience today has gained some fantastic insights from both of you. And we'll probably be looking at it a little differently from now on, but certainly experimenting. And I do hope that you see a few visitors. So I just want to say thank you for your time today. Thanks for supplying the content you did so that we could get a really good demonstration of just a small part of what's happening in the world, but definitely a big part of what's happening in marketing. Really appreciate your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Malcolm.
you, Malcolm.
Okay, well, you, the audience, by the way, can access lots of these resources, and we'll put them up there for you to look at. There's case studies. Go to, as Brett said, go to his LinkedIn, have a look at their websites. They're listed here on the screen now. I also recommend visiting Mofil's YouTube channel, where they've got lots of in-depth online demonstrations similar to what you've seen today. I'm certainly going to set aside some time just to go through as much as I can. It's just a matter of whether I become good enough to use it all. And of course, we can't let you all go without a special thank you to our sponsor for this episode, because the AI Marketers Guild introduced me to Michelle. That's how I found out it, through Dave Berkowitz. And this is an emerging network of marketers who are using AI and collaborating to help the Marketers Guild community learn from one another. So to that point, if you want to learn, join the Guild. Unfortunately, David couldn't guarantee to be here on time today, so he dropped us a quick video which explains why the Guild, what the Guild is. And I'm involved in the first meeting of the AI Marketers Guild in APAC. So watch my LinkedIn feed, and I'll provide you with directions for those in the Australian Asia Pacific region. Let's have a look at what David's got to say.
Hi, I'm David Berkowitz, founder of AI Marketers Guild, and I am so excited that we're supporting the big marketing show. We've got thousands of marketers from all over the world, brands, agencies, tech startup founders, many others who are coming together and just learning more about how to make sense of what's happening in AI and how it applies to marketing. We'd love to have you there. Join us, aimarketersguild.com. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I recommend you join it. There's no cost or anything. You just sign up and you start talking to people just like yourself, asking the same sort of questions you ask. So moving on from AI, our next episode is on the 9th or 10th October, depending on your time zone. And it's going to explore the psychology of advertising and the world of neuroscience, neuromarketing. You'll discover the role of your reptilian brain and what it plays in processing marketing messages. Most marketers haven't got a clue. You'll be surprised at our prehistoric influences. So thank you for joining us today. And again, thank you, Brett and Michelle. Don't forget to follow our socials to access the on-demand past shows, some highlights and updates on future episodes. And we'll see you all next month here on the virtual stage of the Big Marketing Show. Bye for now.